In the webinar that you're about to watch, myself and Tara Williamson, we talk all about goals. Why goals are typically something that we set at the beginning of the year, but why they can tend to fall apart within the first few months. And we try to give you some really good ways on how you set better goals, how you build better strategies and better habits to make sure that you're maintaining those throughout the year. We also talk through BombBomb systems and what are some features and systems that BombBomb has in place to make sure that you build resilience with your goals to help maintain those year round. Take a look. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy 2024. I don't think I've had as many opportunities to say that yet, but I also don't think I've screwed it up yet. I don't think I've said the opposite way. I feel like every time it changes the year, I always get a little wonky with that. But good morning, everybody. So glad that you're here. So excited that you're jumping in with us. I see we've already got almost 200 people jumping in here. So this is fun. We're going to give it a few minutes to kind of just ramp up. But while we're doing that, you guys know that we're always big on how do we use your time and be thankful and make sure that we're valuing your time because we know it's important. We like to jump right in and kind of get started with that stuff. So initially, let's talk about some of the housekeeping things. If you've joined us before, you know a lot of these. If you've been on Zoom, which I can't imagine most of you have not been on Zoom at this point, it's kind of a way of life. But let's talk through some of those sort of things. So one, we all want this to be a conversation. We think that these webinars are a really good opportunity for us to hopefully teach you some new things, but also so that you guys can learn from each other. So there's two ways that you can talk with us and communicate in this webinar itself. First and foremost, the chat. The chat's already rolling a little bit. If you're in here, hop into the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from. I'm sure we'll have a lot of different things with the weather going on right now. We've had all sorts of fun surprises. I know anybody in the US has been able to experience a really fun cold weekend in a lot of different ways. I saw some of those crazy people with no shirts on at the Kansas City Chiefs game the other night. I mean, I'm a sports guy, but see, you're never going to find me out in a sporting event with no shirt on when it's -5 degrees. That's not going to happen.
I just feel like, United States is getting a taste of the Colorado weather. And
There we
I
go.
personally love to see the shorts and short sleeves. You know how we do in the box state. So to see it, nationwide is awesome.
All
Welcome to
right.
the
So
struggle.
there we go. Everybody's getting a little taste of what we get to do with in
Yeah.
January. So hop in chat. Let us know. I see some people from Scottsdale, Arizona. If you could just not rub it in the rest of this webinar that it's probably been like
Yeah.
cold at 65 or 70 or whatever it gets out there.
They are the exception.
But chat it up in there. We love hearing from you guys. And that's a great spot to talk with each other. So communicate in there. The other option is the Q&A feature. The Q&A is what's really good for us to hear. As you can see, the chat gets rolling, right? When we get 300, 400 people in here, it gets cruising and we don't want to miss the most important questions. So if you've got a really important one or you've got one that you're like, I know I'm not the only one that has this, throw it in Q&A. We can kind of monitor that and mark them as answered, and we'll do our best to try and get to everything, if not right away, most likely not right away, but at some point, we always try to leave a few minutes at the end of the Q&A for this as well. So you guys already got to meet a little bit of the special guest that we've got here. Some of you, if you've been on these before, you've met Tara. Tara Williamson is one of our just best employees here at BombBomb. She's been on our customer care team for what, 3 years now? 4 years now?
Going on 4 in June. Yeah.
Jeez. So she has been in the grind, in the trenches with all of you guys, trying to make sure that you've got all of your questions answered, but also one of the most fun, most uplifting, delightful people to have. And what a great person for this topic. So Tara, welcome. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Happy New Year, all. 2024 is going to be our year. Super excited.
So this is going to be a fun one. I'm really excited. Just a couple more quick thing that I always mention throughout, but I want you all to know we are recording this and we will be sending you the recording. So do not stress if you miss a piece here and there, if you get distracted, if you have to leave early, do what you got to do. We will make sure that we send this to you so you have all of that sort of stuff. And like I said, just continue to communicate, throw questions in throughout. Tara is going to be monitoring Q&A and chat to help me out. I'm going to do my best. She's going to add some flavors in. So it's going to be a really fun, nice conversation. So man, we're already 5 minutes in. We want to jump in and kind of start talking about this. So I assume most of you know why we're hosting this webinar, and you know why you're here, because we're talking about video resilience and resolutions and things. Now, I know New Year's resolutions are a topic that everybody knows about. Everybody does some element of these, I think, when it comes to the new year. But there's also some really, really interesting things when it comes to these that I think are things that we want to talk about. And I think overall, The big issue is that a lot of us make these resolutions, and how often do we actually follow through with them? Tara and I were joking before we went on, and I'm actually going to go a little story mode for 2 seconds here because I just want to tell you how quickly this kind of stuff can happen. And then, T, if you want to share what's literally happening to you right now, let's share it. Let's be real, right?
Sure.
So we always get in. My wife is an entrepreneur. She's a business owner. These are my 3 kids. So Oliver is in the middle there. He's a 9-year-old. And then I have twin 3-year-olds, August and Georgia. So immediately our life has a lot of things going on. But we were like, you know what? We're excited. We're going to use this as some new energy. We know it's just another day, but let's build up. Let's start looking at where we want to get to this year. So for some reason, our Christmas break was 18 days long this year. It felt like an eternity. So let's just say after New Year's Eve, we had a full week. We were ready to go back to school right away. Well, guess what? First day back, 2-hour delay because it was too cold out for the kids. So we're immediately like, okay, that's okay. We got this. We've made it through the kids. We're going to go back and we're going to be fine. The next day, my son comes home because he's throwing up at school. We're like, okay, you know what? We got this. We'll deal with it. We'll keep him home. Maybe it's just a 24-hour bug. He's doing okay the next day. So great. We get to send him back the next day. Then guess what? The next day, my daughter comes home with a stomach bug. Then the next day, my other son comes home. He has a flu bug. My wife and I have come down with the flu. We have been sick as dogs for the last 2 weeks. I mean, this thing is, if any of you out there have got this flu, holy cow, I haven't felt this sick in a long time. But it was amazing to me how quickly we can go from like, we got the energy, we're excited, we're going to do this, to all of a sudden, the kids are home all the time. They're sick. They're crying. We're trying to keep up with some work. We were supposed to be doing a whole bunch of in-person stuff that, can I go to that? Is that responsible? Is it not? Do I feel good? You know, you start wrestling with all of these things. And then on top of it, my wife went through something where her best friend's dad passed away. And now we're dealing with this emotional thing. It's kind of felt like 24 has come in and just really given us a bunch of gut punches. And it's only the 17th. And I think that's why this topic is so important, is because no matter how excited you feel, no matter how motivated you feel, all of a sudden life happens. Things happen. I mean, T, do you mind sharing what you told me literally 10 minutes before this webinar started?
Not at all. Come on, family. Let's all gather. So I am right with you. 2024, I came in, I was like, I'm going to have the best year ever. I had my vision board. I believe in show and tell. Vision board put together. I did all the things to set myself up for success. And this past weekend, I had an issue with my water heater and I took it on the chin. I was like, it's okay. You know, it's fine. We could do, you know, back in the Perry days, boil some water, bathe. We got a new water heater coming Thursday. It's no problem. I'm literally sitting down here preparing for this webinar. And I look off in the distance and I'm in my basement and there is a patio by my back door and the patio is glistening. And I've not seen it glisten like that before, guys. I was like, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. I got up, walked over, and I'm just thinking, basement's flooded. We got a busted pipe. So again, I'm going to laugh through these moments. But you're right. It's only the 17th of January and 2024 is coming in a little spicy. It is.
And you know what? I think that's true in a lot of years for a lot of people in a lot of various ways. We're experiencing it right now. I know everybody that's on this is probably experiencing some level of these hurdles and hiccups. And that's why we feel like this topic is so powerful, because we've got to talk about this. If we just set these hollow goals or these hollow resolutions, guess what? These kind of things will completely derail it and we will forget what those goals are in a month or two. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk initially about why some of these goals fail, why these resolutions do not make it past a certain amount of time. And we're going to spend a little bit of time there. But then what I really want to focus on with most of you guys is, how do we set strong goals that can make it through this? How do we build systems that help build this kind of foundation underneath these goals? And then also, how does BombBomb be a part of that? I know for a lot of you, I talk to people, and T, you're talking to people every day, so I'm sure you can relate as well. They're like, man, I have these big video goals this year. I was going to record 100 videos this year. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I love that videos are part of the goals that you're trying to ascend, but is that even the right goal? Is recording a bunch of videos actually the beneficial thing? So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to show you some of the systems and some of the features that BombBomb has in place so that you can do that. Now, we're not going to dive into the nuts and bolts of every specific feature. We've got some links, we've got some articles that we'll share out with you as we're discussing these things. This is more to give you ideas of going, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about using that. Oh, that could help me achieve this in my system. Now, for those of you that help run teams, whether it's a team within BombBomb or not, I want you to know as well, a lot of this stuff is really good for motivation as well. Maintaining the motivation for usage, for systems, for products, for all of that stuff throughout the year. So I want you to keep these in mind, not just for yourself and how are you setting your own personal goals, your own business goals, but how am I thinking about these in a broader aspect of how do I keep my team motivated, keep them moving forward through all these hiccups. We were in a meeting this morning, and I think half the people I was in the meeting with are like, oh yeah, I'm feeling really sick today. Oh yeah, this person's got it, man. This stuff is going around hard this year. And it's easy to lose that excitement from the new year. So we want to kind of keep going and push past that. So I want to ask you all a quick question, just because this is kind of fun. I think we all have a decent amount of guesses. Throw your guesses in chat as you're reading through this. But how long do you think the average New Year resolution lasts? If you just had to guess, T, I don't know if you even had a chance to kind of look at the answer. Did you have a guess when you initially saw this?
Oh man. Okay. So for me personally, I feel like it depends on the genre of the actual resolution.
Okay.
The go to the gym, work out, lose 15 pounds, that typically fizzles out by like March 1st, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
but
Yep.
those I call them my boss moves, things to do with work or gaining more revenue, things of that nature, that tends to be lasting throughout the year, if it doesn't make it. And I think that's
Sure.
because it's got money attached to it. But that's just
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think that's a good point, though. I think those of us that are thinking like personal self-help ones, I think a lot of us would admit those fizzle out. We have guesses literally as low as 1 day, 3 days in the chat here. We've got
Mhm.
18 days, 24 hours, right? So I think a lot of us can relate to this, like, oh yeah, I want to go to the gym more. And then do we ever go to the gym? Nope, because life happens. But I do think when it comes to business, we try really hard to kind of stick with that and go a little bit more. So I think you'll be surprised. The answer, I actually went with a Forbes article. Forbes is a really reputable number. There's numbers all over the place. So you can kind of find whatever you want to support your number. But I thought this was interesting. 3.74 months. So almost 4 months. Now, I
Okay.
think that obviously encompasses a lot of these, whether it's these personal self-help ones, whether it's these business ones. But I do agree, Tara. I think there is something to when it's business driven, when it's something that your life is kind of dependent on, we stick with it a little bit longer and we really want to try and we want to lean into that and those sort of things. When it's like, oh, I should go to the gym more. I can keep moving life without going to the gym, right? I can keep
Right.
functioning in a lot of those facets. So, what are some of the reasons that these fizzle out? Well, we've sort of been mentioning them, but I think it's interesting to start thinking about these from a lot of different angles. Some of them are things we cannot control, right? Family, death, finances, economy, some of those sort of things are things that are very much out of our control. I've seen that this year. My wife and I were talking a lot about how do we deal with these hiccups with kids getting sick and us getting sick and not have it derail our entire lives? We can't control that. We have 3-year-old twins that for some reason like to lick the bottoms of shoes. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to my brain. But guess what? I read some article that is like there are billions of bacteria on the bottom of a shoe. Like
Mhm.
it's disgusting and they lick it. They're going to get sick. No matter how hard we try to parent around that kind of stuff, these things are going to happen. So, how do we work through those things we can't control? But then what about some of the things that we can control, right? I think I would look at, motivation, something like that as like, well, that feels like something that maybe I can control. It feels like that's something I have some ownership over. Priorities to a degree. Things are going to come up that we're going to have to prioritize, but am I prioritizing the right things, right? Why are those things that come in the way of it? Well, I wanted to ask you guys, I'm going to launch a little poll here of what do you think are the things that hold you back the most from completing the resolutions and goals to the extent that you want? And I've put some of the things that were on this slide as well, but take a minute there and kind of read through it because it was really interesting for me to start to think about what are the things that come up for me. T, what do you think it is for you? Maybe one or two. What are some of the top reasons you find that you don't necessarily follow through to the level you wanted to?
I'm a realist, so I'm gonna say life happens is gonna be top of the list because we can always plan, right? But life will always have a different one. So there's that. And then lack of motivation. I think it's funny because my husband's reading a book right now about motivation and how we think about it. And so majority of us, it's like we look for the motivation in order to be able to accomplish the goals. Whereas there's a different way to look at it, as those small tasks that you actually are accomplishing every single day can be looked at as motivation. So, you know, for me, it's just a matter of looking at things differently this year, but I would have to say life happens is at the top of my list for sure.
I think it's hard to ignore that altogether. I mean, it's gonna happen, especially that saying of the more you have, the more responsibility is there, right? The more you own a house, all of a sudden you have leaks in the basement. You have kids, all of a sudden they're getting sick, right? You're adding to the potential of life happening. I'm going to go ahead and end this. We've got about 50% of people that voted here. And actually, there's two that do kind of stand out. It's that life happens and the distractions, similar things, just all sorts of things around us that are going on. What I think is interesting, and we are going to talk about this, and I actually have a really interesting quote about motivation that we'll talk about kind of near the end of this, is the lack of motivation. The goals aren't as well thought out, that those are lower on the list. So it sounds like we've got people that want to do well, that feel like we have the motivation to do well. However, at least for me, and I'll be totally transparent and vulnerable with this, I feel like I can tend to use the life happens and the distractions as excuses for this kind of stuff. Because there's always going to be those things. And it's really easy for me to be like, oh, I'm just so tired dealing with the kids. I'm so tired having to do with X, Y, and Z. Something has to take a back seat, right? And I just explain that away in my own brain. And so I want to start talking the rest of this time on how can we start being a little bit more productive on our own minds and start working through this. So here's some of the things that I want to talk about a little bit of some things that we can control. And then we're going to talk through how to set more appropriate goals for yourself, because I think it's really good to have a formula for this to make sure it's not just, oh, I want to work out more. I want to be healthier. Sure. And I love that thought. That's not a goal. That's not achievable in the slightest, right? Of I'm going to be healthier. What does that mean? So we're going to talk through that. So here's some of the main things as I was doing some more research for this of why do resolutions typically fail? Well, first and foremost, it's because we focus on the what and not the why. And we're going to talk about that as we go through this framework. But what I just said there, that example of, oh, I want to be healthier. Sure, that's what I want it to be. But why do I want to be healthier? What is the motivation underneath that that's driving that? We used to talk about this a lot, Tara, when we were talking about talking with clients and them adopting BombBomb and learning why they need to use BombBomb. And if we don't understand the why behind it, and it's just they want to do more video, we're never going to really get that buy-in that we need to unless they understand that this impacts something much deeper for them. I'm going to mute real quick because I have to cough really bad, but I'll be right back. Hold on.
That lingering.
All right. Oh man, it's just a delight. So I apologize if you see me drinking lots of water, but I'm excited to get through this. So this is first and foremost, we need to spend a little bit more time on, we need to spend less time on what the end goal is and what we're looking to do, and start focusing on why this is important. What's the impact of that? I do think there's also an element of we actually don't take the time to sit down and set clear focused goals. Luckily, that was pretty low for most of us. We didn't feel like that was a big thing in that poll that we responded on. But I do think it's really easy to go with the social experiment of it's the new year. I need to set some goals. I'm going to sit down and write some stuff out. And we take 5-10 minutes and we write it out and we're done. Now, the flip side of that, Tara, is your vision board, right? That takes a long time to put together. What, if you had to guess on average, how long do you usually take when you're building something like that?
I actually dedicate a day, honestly. I think we started on December 30th, so before New Year's Eve. And we did have a whole day. So literally had breakfast, started cutting up the pieces. It's intentional. And it took all day to finish it out. But I think there's a lot of like thought process. What do you want your year to look like? What are the goals that you're trying to obtain? And then finding those images that match it. So you're being super intentional about that energy that you're putting out for the year.
I love that. I mean, even just one day that she dedicates to this, if you give yourself that much time, you're thinking about these lower levels of things. And it's not just, I want to get in better shape. I want to convert more leads. I want to sell more. I want my business to grow by X percentage. It's so easy. I just threw 5 things out that could be my goals right now. And I have no understanding as to why or how I'm going to get there, right? So we need to talk through some of that sort of stuff. So we make these gut decisions with no real plan in place, and we don't have the tools to actually help us achieve these goals. I think one of the things that we're going to talk about, you're going to hear me use the word systems and habits a lot throughout this conversation today, because we set these overarching goals and then we don't give ourselves a foundation for what to build towards that. Think about this. I'm sure you look back at last year and there's a lot of really, really successful things that you did, but you finished, we'll just use a financial number as like you finished with X amount of profit for your business. I guarantee almost 100% of you are sitting here today going, I'd like to grow that a little bit. I don't want to finish at that exact same percentage. So if our goal is, I want to grow by 15%, and that's just where it ends, what are we doing differently than last year to gain that 15%? It's not going to magically just follow through the door, just walk through the door, and we're going to gain that amount of money. We have to start building these things. So you're going to hear me reference James Clear a lot. If you do not know who James Clear is, please write down this and write down this book. He's the author of Atomic Habits. I reference him a lot in the stuff that we're going to talk about today, because he really takes these big ideas, introduces some new things, and makes it really easily digestible. You can find a ton of stuff for him. I was telling Tara, I've been going through his masterclass because he has a masterclass all about building these habits and things. And I loved this quote because I think it's really, really good. A lot of times when we're setting goals, we're thinking best case scenario. We're thinking, what can we do? What can we achieve? How can we push ourselves to get to a certain point? June, that's awesome. Just finishing his book now. I love that. And Eric, I see you've already got your team reading it. So this is great, right? This is a really well-known book. I'm not going to take credit for it in the slightest in introducing it. But if you haven't heard of it, write it down and get it. But I love this quote of, it's not about what we can achieve on our best day, but what can we stick to on our worst day? Think about what I described in my story earlier. Those things happen. They're going to happen every single day. If you have not had them happen in the first 7 days of the year so far, you're going to. We are going to run into hurdles. We are going to run into things that are going to make it hard. And if those things completely derail us because we're having a harder day, we're never going to achieve the long-term goal. So if we start to think about what can we look at and what can I stick to on one of my worst days, oh my gosh, now we're starting to make things that are a little bit achievable. So let's start talking about this in this framework. I've seen you guys, thank you for sharing all the stuff in chat, because you're sharing some really great stuff. I think it was Lee talked about the 7 Ps. Or somebody wrote the 5 Ps, but not the 7. So there's so many different ways to think about this. If proper prior planning prevents, oh, there's the other 2, the poor performance somebody threw in. So these are, however you need to remember it, it's all about planning, right? Prior planning and putting deep thought to it. I'm going to teach you an acronym that are called SMART goals. And many of you have probably heard about these. So again, this is reiteration. One of the things I've learned in these webinars is most people don't come to learn this revolutionary new content that they've never heard before. They need reminders. We need reminders of the things we have been told and have forgotten because we've gotten distracted. So this goal setting here with the SMART goals is going to give you a framework of how you can start to build stuff on your own. First and foremost, the S, specific, right? I talked to you about I want to get healthier, right? I want to be healthier in 2024. What is something that is definitely lacking in that goal? Specificity, right? There are so many different ways that I could get healthy. It could be mental. It could be physical. It could be, I want to improve my heart. It could be, I want to improve my blood pressure. I want my biceps to be bigger. I don't know. It could be in any of these things, but I have not defined what healthier is at all. So we have to make sure that we're doing that. And I love that specific in this sense is the goal is concrete and tangible, and everyone knows what that looks like. Tara, talk a little bit about this, because I know you set your own personal goals, but when you're talking about goals within the team itself, it's pretty hard for you to be able to stick to that if you don't know what that means from a higher level or how you fit within that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Knowing the greater picture or the greater direction, I think is always key, especially when you're talking about little groups making it happen. to know what that end goal looks like or what that top level goal is. I think it trickles down to the smaller group so you know how you play a part. How do you get yourself or your team in a place to where that higher goal is being reached? So definitely direction is needed.
Include your team in these conversations, right? I know our team went through a really, really cool experience last week when we were all together, where everybody brought in, what is the things that make my job hard? And we wrote down sticky notes and things. I had to do it virtually because I was feeling a little sick. I didn't want to get everybody else sick, but everybody brought in and threw up hundreds of sticky notes all over the place. And then we took all those, started to build themes of what are things that we need to work on as a team? What are things that we can start fixing? And how can we start to be specific with these themes to start fixing this? So include your team in this. If you've got people that work with you, don't feel like you have to be the one with all the answers. I talk with my wife about this constantly because she owns a business. She's an entrepreneur. She feels like she should have the answers a lot. You know what? You're not always going to have the answers, and you're not always going to know the problems because you're not the one talking with everybody. So bring your team in, include them, and allow yourselves to start to come up with some specific things that are really important for these goals themselves. Now, the M in the SMART framework is measurable. I think personally, for me, this is one of the hardest elements of this SMART framework. Every time I write out a goal, I go, crap, I got to go back and make this measurable. Like, this is just not where my brain goes. I think some of you out there that maybe have more kind of analytical mindsets, you probably come up with this stuff really, really fast. But the goal has to have an objective measure to success that everyone can understand. Again, it's not just you, it's making sure that everybody can understand what is the success that we're trying to measure. Now, the key to this is you have to be able to measure this. Right? So you can't say something like, well, I want to decrease my body fat percentage by 6%. If you have no way to measure your body fat percentage, great. That is specific, that is measurable, but you have no way to track that. If you're trying to improve something in your business where you're going, I want to improve my lead conversion by 15%. If you don't have a system where you can see the amount of leads coming in, the conversion rates coming in to actually figure out that percentage, then it doesn't matter how measurable it is because you don't have access to it. So you've got to make sure that you're mapping out KPIs, right? Key performance indicators, something that you're going to drive towards in this goal to improve. And then you have to make sure you have the system or the process or access to something to be able to see that measurement. Is this something, are you as naturally good at this? I mean, the vision board gives me real emotional vibes. We got all the emotional feels and all the good feels with it. But how do you take a lot of that and start to give it to things that are actually measurable for you, Tara?
So for me, I am an emotionally driven person, if you can't already tell. So emotions do drive me as a person. However, I've learned just being in the corporate realm for so long that when it comes down to things or tasks that are being completed on the job, it's easier for me to measure them out because typically you're going to have like a deadline, a time frame. You know, I have to answer my customers within a certain time window. All of that is measurable as it stands. So it's a little bit easier for me to measure those goals when it comes down to my business life, but personal, that one's still a work in progress because it's very much driven by my emotions for sure.
Sure. Well, and I think, and I keep going back to these kind of self-help ones just as examples. So obviously we're talking about business. And I do think when it comes to a business, it's easier to tie numbers and KPIs and achievable things. Diane, I know you said I'm so bad at measuring goals. Yeah, it's really, really easy to go, that's not a big deal. We'll be able to feel if we're doing well or not, right? But I do think it is a little bit easier to tie in a business sense. But from a personal sense, think about it this way, right? If maybe we set a goal where we're like, you know what, I really want my marriage to improve. I want to be closer to my wife this year. That's not measurable in the slightest, right? So how do we start to break that down? Does it mean I need to put a key performance indicator to how my marriage is improving? No, but maybe I set something that is measurable. That's like, you know what, in order for my marriage to improve, I think we need more time together because our life is really busy. So my goal that I can measure is I want to have one date night a month with my wife this year. Guess what? You'll be able to look back and go, did I have that date night or did I not? And sometimes you're going to be driving that. Sometimes life is going to drive that and allow that. But now we have something to be able to go, yeah, we did go on a date in January, or no, we didn't. And how do we adjust from here? Right. And that's obviously very light. But I know for my wife and I, when we first adopted our twins, one date night in a month was monstrous for us. To have a few hours to get away was like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. I see you. You are a person again. So there are ways to do this that are not necessarily data driven, but it's something we can look back on and go, oh yeah, I was able to do that. Another example for me, I really enjoy writing, right? Writing is a passionate thing for me. So I can sit here, which I've done year over year, and been like, I like to write in screenplay format. I've written screenplays and scripts and things. I can go, I'm going to write a screenplay this year. Great. Technically, that's measurable. But I've now set that for 4 years in a row and have not done it. So I need to adjust something in this to measure that. And what can I do? You know what? I want to write 100 pages this year. Can be on anything. Now I've taken some of the pressure off myself to go, it has to be a screenplay. It has to be perfect. It has to be well-rounded and thought out, and go, no, let's just get fingers on keys and let's start writing. And we can do 100 pages. That's doable for me. And I can start to measure that throughout the year to go, okay, well, I need about 10 pages a month, give or take, right? Can I do that? Now, how do I set the time, right? And we're starting to break it down. The A here is attainable. And I love this one. I think it's important, both sides of setting goals, to make sure that they're challenging and they are pushing you forward. But also, have I made it so hard that this goal is not going to be achievable or attainable in any regard, right? Tara, not to put you on blast, I know last year you told me one of your goals is I want to make $1 million this year. Love that. Let's go. Like, let's challenge ourselves. How did that go? Was that frustrating for you? Did you make $1 million last year?
So funny you mentioned it, Kevin, because I already was there like, yep, that's my $1.5 million goal. No, sir, I did not hit my 1.5 mil last year. However, she's back on the board this year. I think
there we go.
Year, I did not have, as you mentioned, I didn't have my specifics. I didn't have my measurables put in place. It was just like, I want 1.5 million by the end of this year. And so this year, I'm like, okay, I know I've got to do that, right? Outside of my 9 to 5. What does that look like? Who do I connect with? What things do I do? So we'll see how the 1.5 turns out this year.
Well, I believe in it. And like I said, I'm all for like aiming big. I don't think that's bad in any sense of the word, but I do think there also has to be some elements of maybe there's some caveats to what you say as well. Maybe it's not $1.5 million in cash in my bank by the end of the year. Maybe you sit and you go, you know what? I want 1.5 in equity in all of the things that I own, because now I can build towards buying a house that's going to help me get closer to that goal. Maybe it's I'm starting a company that's going to start to add value. Maybe I'm getting investment properties or investment things that are all starting to build towards this. So while I'm not rolling in my bed in $1.5 million in cash, I am building towards this lifestyle that are my goals to do, right? These are some ways that we can start to make things a little bit more attainable while still kind of aiming high. So thank you. I didn't mean to put you on blast on that one,
It's
T.
okay. I was like, I'm ready to share.
Nah, I love it. All right, the R here is relevant, right? The goal meaningfully contributes to larger objectives. We talked about this with the impact earlier, and that it cannot just be the what, but it has to have the why as well, right? So for any of these things, we start to go, and again, I'm just kind of using examples as they come to me. I want to be healthier this year. Why do I want to be healthier? Why is this important? Do I just want to look really good? So I look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club and I look ripped and that makes me feel better? Okay, great. Maybe that is my why. And if that's your why, that's okay. I'm not judging that at all, but know why. Know what's important. Maybe it's that, you know what? I've had some friends that are dealing with some really, really hard issues right now medically, and I don't want to be in that spot in 3 years when I hit their age. I know for me right now, there's a weird kind of mental thing going on because my dad actually passed away when I was younger from cancer. He died when he was 40. I'm 38. Well, that feels weird. Like, is that something I can go, I'm not going to get cancer? No, right? Like, I can't control that. But what can I control? I can control how am I treating myself? How am I taking care of my body? Am I putting on SPF every day? Am I doing some of these things that we know can protect and can help me? And that's why I want to be healthier, so that I can live longer for my kids and my family and be supportive. When you have that why, the days and the pushing through and the doing things you don't want to do are a heck of a lot easier because you can think of that. I'm spoiling a quote. I already kind of talked about this a little bit. Mel Robbins is another great name. Melanie Robbins. I think she goes by Mel most of the time. She's written a couple of books about habits. She's really big on habits and stuff. She actually was a lawyer, I think she was 48 or 49 when she finally stopped being a lawyer because she wanted to do this. So she's been doing this for a handful of years now. And she talks about this quote that I will bring up and show you at the end because I have a slide for it, that basically talks about motivation is never there when you really need it. And I thought that was so fascinating to me because I've never heard that. But think about it. When do you need motivation? It's when you don't feel like doing stuff. It's when you're really grinding. It's when you're feeling down. It's when the motivation isn't there. So you're trying to find this ethereal thing, this motivation, when you really don't have it. So relying on that I'm going to feel motivated all the time is honestly pretty nearsighted. We're not going to be able to do that. And so we've got to make sure that we have a deeper understanding, because if I can go, I really don't want to go to the gym today. I am not feeling it. But man, I look over and I see my kids and go, I need to be there for them in 20 years, in 30 years. I can get out of bed. I can go and hit the gym because that's important to me. That impact, that relevance, I think is universally important. And it may be one of the most important things when it comes to these. All right, let's finish off the SMART goals here. And then I want to dive deeper into the kind of the underlying of all this. But timely, the goal's got to have a deadline and a timeline of progress milestones. I really like that second period there because it's easy to go, okay, by end of the year, I'm going to have achieved this. How are we going to get there? Right? I mean, Tara, with all of your vision board stuff, I'm sure you've been asking yourself a lot of those questions. It's not like all of a sudden on December 31st, 1.5 million is going to show up in your bank account, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to be doing things throughout the year. And I think these progress milestones are massively important of how we're working back from this end goal to kind of figure out how we're going to do that. And that's what we're going to start to kind of work on in the next little bit here is going, how do you build this up and how do you get to that point specifically? So is there anything that you have to add to that, Tara? I mean, I know you've heard this before. We've talked about this within the company itself. Hopefully you guys are using some sort of framework in this, but this idea of making sure that your goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely.
Well, being in support, we always have to keep these in mind. People will hit us up when things are broken. So we got to make sure that we understand what's going on. We've got to test and all of that good stuff. And then, make sure that the help that we're giving is relevant and that it's done in a timely fashion. So, and our team is small. Our support team is 6 strong right now. So we have to keep these in mind in order for us to push everything forward and making it move without a hiccup. So do I know this format? Yes. Use it every single day.
Well, and I think this is the next important step. And Andrea, thanks so much for letting us know about that. I know motivation feels like kind of an ethereal thing, and that's not honestly what we're focusing on this whole time. We're focusing on how do you make sure you're setting yourself up for success. The key to this, and hopefully where you're going to start to find some value in this, Andrea, is the systems that you're putting in place. Because I guarantee you will not be achieving the goals if you're not putting your systems in place. James Clear talks about this. He uses, we see icebergs all the time as these examples for a million different things, right? But I liked this idea of that the goal is kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's what we can see. The systems are all the pieces underneath that you have to put in place. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about some of the ones that BombBomb's going to provide for you, but I want you to start thinking about and seeing some examples of what exactly does that mean. So let's give you some quick examples of what are some systems and things we need to start thinking about. So we've talked about this, that I want to get in better shape one, right? How are you supporting yourself to get in better shape? Well, we need to start thinking about what hurdles and what things are needed to actually start improving that. So let's just say that the gym is kind of our ultimate goal. That's how we think we're going to be in better shape. Well, first and foremost, do you have a gym? Now, that's an easy yes or no, but you're not going to get in gym. You're not going to go to the gym if you don't have one to go to. So when you're thinking about that, don't just get the cheapest one. Don't just go get the most expensive one. You've got to find a combination of things where it's conveniently located, it's close to you, you can get there, because guess what? If it's 20 minutes away, you're going to use that as an excuse to not go as much. So make sure it's there. You've got to make sure it is affordable to some degree, or you're going to cancel that because you're paying too much money and you're not going. So you've got to start to think about, one of the systems I need in place to succeed in this is having a gym. Clothes, whether we like it or not, that's part of gym culture, right? We want to feel good and confident when we go to the gym. We don't want to go and look at ourselves in the mirror and feel gross compared to all these people that are really, really fit, because that's the assumptions we put on. So do you have some that are comfortable? Do you have some that make you feel confident? Do you have multiple pairs? So you don't wear it once, go to the gym, and then, oh shoot, I've got to wash that in the washer. I'm not going to go to the gym today. These are all things that we're starting to build as excuses for ourselves to allow ourselves, and I do say the word allow specifically, on what we're going to do, right? So that we can kind of hold back from that. And then you've got to make sure that you've got the other systems in place. If I have an app, I have a trainer, I have some things in mind there to help with that. Now, another example, I want to increase my earnings by 25% this year. Great. What are the systems for support? What systems am I putting in place? You're not just going to have that 25% show up. How am I changing my marketing? What am I doing to be maintaining last year's levels? So keeping up with that and also bringing in new content. How am I changing my sales process so that I'm converting more, right? Maybe that's one of the elements of how I can bring that in, is I don't need more leads, but I need to convert more. Onboarding. How am I onboarding my clients? How am I making sure that I'm reducing churn by allowing them to do that, right? And then employee training. How am I training my employees to make sure that they're doing that? Now, the level below systems that I think is really, really good to think about is habits as well. And starting to think about, what is your identity? James Clear talks a lot about kind of reverse thinking this and going, it's not about the goal itself. It's about, how am I understanding who I want to be? What is the person I want to be? And letting that drive the process that I use, the outcomes that I use, and some of those sort of pieces. So I want you to start to ask yourself those questions with the SMART goals that you've set. Start asking, who is the type of person that I want to become? And then start kind of reverse engineering that. So let's start talking about a little bit more of what are some of the bomb pieces that we can help with, because I know people are anxious to hear that. But I want you to know that this is a recurring thing. The more that we perform these habits, the more it reinforces the person we want to be, and the more we're going to stick with that kind of content. So here's kind of just these quick steps here just to reiterate, so you can write them down and start thinking about them on your own time. And then let's start talking about some of the bomb systems. One, define who you want to be at the main level. Map out the habits that you need to do to become that person, and then start putting those systems in place to meet these SMART goals that you wrote out. So we're going to kind of jump into this and start teaching you guys how you can use some of these bomb systems to reinforce some of these goals here themselves. So let's start talking a little bit on some of the bomb systems that you may not know about. I want to make sure that we're teaching you some things, hopefully, that you haven't seen before, and helping you understand these are things that can, again, take the hurdles away so that you can succeed in the best way possible. First and foremost, who of you have heard of the word snippets? Feel free to throw in chat if that's something you've used before. Yeah, it's all right. I know you and I have used these a ton in our time here.
Yes.
Snippets is a really, really important aspect. It's a tool that BombBomb has. It's also a tool that a lot of other systems have. If you're a Gmail user, if you're an Outlook user, snippets are really, really powerful because it allows you to type an email one time, save it, and then keeping it all together so that you can reuse it time and time again. Efficiency is going to be a really important aspect of you continuing to stick with something. So let me see if I can hop over here. I'm actually going to pull up my Gmail just to kind of show you guys exactly where that lives. Now, the snippets that BombBomb has are actually in our Gmail. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you're looking for it, you're not going to find it in the web app, but the nice thing is this is accessible on any membership level that you have. So you can pop this open. When you look at our BombBomb Power Stack here, that if you hover over it, it's our new BombBomb logo. The snippets option is this bottom one right here. And what this has allowed me to do is I can type up emails, including evergreen videos, if I want to record a video and save it in here. And then all I have to do, let's say appointment confirmation, right? So maybe you're somebody that works in sales and you're churning and burning and you want to make sure that you are responding to people once they set an appointment with you. I want them to have this information. I can save that email one time and then click the plus sign. When I click that plus sign, it automatically loads in all of this information and all of this text that I want here. It will save hyperlinks. It will save all of that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to see if I can grab one real quick here that has a video that I have saved in it, just to show you an example of that. So new lead comes in, right? So I want to make sure that I have something to respond to this new lead. Great. I have the subject line saved into my snippet. I've got the video saved in, and then I've got any information down here below. In fact, for those of you that maybe are trying to work on having more people show up and better show rates, maybe that's part of you achieving your goal. You can put links to reschedules or put any of that sort of stuff. The more information you give somebody, the more likely they are going to be to come to this. So again, just to kind of show you where that is, if you're a Gmail user, you can hover over this, click the snippets button there. You can create a new one right here with this button up at the top, or you can scroll through and kind of look through any of the snippets that you might have in there so that you have access to use those at any time that you need to. So again, I think these are powerful in helping you find your goals because now we can be efficient. This is one of the systems we're putting in place to make sure that we're following up with the right information. And then we can start to analyze, okay, I've sent this response email to a lot of people. Has it improved anything? Has it not? That's how we're measuring this as we keep moving forward. The second system that I want to show you here that I don't know how many people really use to its full extent is our video workspace. So the beautiful thing is this is also included in every membership level that we have here at BombBomb. It's the videos tab in your BombBomb account. What's cool about it is you can use this to save you a heck of a lot of time. You can use this to organize in so many different ways. How many of you are familiar with the term evergreen video? That's a term that we use here a lot at BombBomb, but it's this idea of I record a video once and I can use it time and time again for people. So instead of saying, hey, Tara, thanks so much for sending in your information. I'm excited to follow up with you. We go, hey, thank you so much for sending me your info. I'm really, really excited to follow up with you and make sure that I help you out. So really the big difference is I just didn't mention Tara in it, right? We don't use a name. We still do very specific situations. And then the way that the video workspace helps you is there's a lot of different things, but we can organize content. We can start to build labels and folders for different content that we want to. And then we can grab these videos that we need and drag them over and add them into these folders. So you can see, I've even got evergreen webinars. I've got evergreen notifications. I've got meetings. I've got a bunch of stuff. For those of you that may have a team within BombBomb, guess what? You can build shared folders as well that your team shares content in or that you share content in. Holy cow, if we're talking about team usage and maintaining team motivation, if you are building content and sharing it with your team's accounts, how much more likely do you think they are to use that if they don't have to take the 5 to 10 minutes to actually build it themselves? That's what this video workspace allows you to do. So it allows you quick, easy access to all of your videos, which I think is always good, but it also allows you to share, to edit, to view engagement for the tracking purposes. And I really think where it helps a ton from a goal setting, from a maintaining, from a sustainability standpoint over the course of the year is making sure that I can always find my videos quickly and easily. You guys can see here, I have 9,900 videos in my BombBomb account. If my goal is that every time I want to reuse a video, I'm going to come back and scroll through here and find that video, do you know how long that would take me? Oh my gosh, forever. I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to give up well before I find most of those videos. So if it's a video that I know I'm aware of and that I want to use, I either make a folder for it or guess what? We have some search and filter options up here so that you can do that. Tara, I don't know how much you talk to your clients about this. One of the things I talk about is naming your video for a lot of reasons. But one is to come in and find it here. Is that a conversation that comes up with you and your clients a lot?
Actually, I'm going to say yes, it does, actually. We have these conversations often in support in regards to how do you set yourself up for success? How do you make it more efficient? What things can you do with the platform to help out with the day-to-day workflow? And so a lot of these points that you're pulling out are things that are typically given to our customers as a means of being able to make the platform work for you. So long answer to that, but yes.
Well, that's huge. I mean, if the platform doesn't work for you, it's not a good system for you, right? So we want to try and give you and introduce those of you who have maybe not used this as much. We want to introduce these new strategies and these new systems so that it can work more effectively for you. If there is a goal for you for this year to be sending more videos, that is something that you want to lean into. Okay, let's start to think about what are the types of videos we want to send. Are they going to be personal? Are they going to be evergreen? How am I going to organize those so that they're not hard for me to find, that I can find that video to reuse when I need to? It's really, really pivotal because if you can't, you're not going to go through the 15-minute process to try and refine that every time you want to use it. That is a massive hurdle that will prevent you from building that resilience and building that consistency throughout the year. So if you're running a team, make sure that you're organizing some of this. Tara, I don't know, I haven't checked on chat in just a second here, but we're also going to share some links to knowledge-based articles on how to use some of this content, how to build some of this content. There's lots of videos in these articles as well, so that you can review that and find that benefit as well. So the video workspace, I just think, is one for organization. The quicker and easier you can get to the content you need, the more organized you are, the more likely you are to stick with it and follow through in a long-term thing. I'm going to come back to that one because I think this is a little bit more of a natural segue here, is our Chrome and Edge extensions. I don't know how many of you use that. Beautiful thing is, this is included with all of our memberships. So again, no matter what membership level you've got, you have access to this. This really goes with that theme of the easier it is to access, the more likely I am to use it. So what is it? Well, the Chrome and Edge extension are very, very similar, but they're for different web browsers. So if you're a Google Chrome user like myself, which honestly, Google Chrome is the web browser we recommend the most because it works most effectively with video. It just talks really seamlessly with video. But if you use Microsoft Edge, there's also the very, very similar extension to this. And what is it? It's basically one of these extensions that you see up next to your URL up here. You can see I have a handful of them, but our orange BombBomb logo is here, and mine has a number 4 next to it because I get notifications. I get tracking notifications that notify me up there. Now, it's a little confusing with this in the background. I'm going to switch to this page just so you can see it a little bit more clearly, so there's not 2 of them on there. What does this give me access to? A lot, right? We talked about how we can record directly from here. One of the beautiful things about this is you can record yourself or record your screen without ever leaving any web platform at all. You can be on any website you want because this is associated with the web browser itself. So I can launch my recorder right here. It's taken that huge hurdle of having to log in and find it and all these things. It's accessible for you right here. Guess what else it gives you access to? Your video workspace that we just talked about. If you're organizing your video workspace and you've got it in here, you can come in and look at your folders and find your folders there, or you can search for a video if you know the name of it. If you've used some of these naming conventions and you've named it well, I can now access that without even logging into BombBomb, without having to take that extra step. It's taking one more step out of it. Now, the last piece that you can see here in these extensions is also our tracking. Now, for those of you that are familiar or maybe not, we track a lot of things for you depending on how you're sending the video. If you're sending it through an email, you can see if they've opened the email, if they've clicked links in there, if they've done some of those activities. But we can also track, did they watch the video? What percentage of the video did they watch? What's the longest watch? These are really important things for you so that you're making sure you're spending your time doing the right things. That's what I love about tracking. Talk about KPIs, right? This is something you could potentially use for your KPIs and your measuring, is going, okay, I want to make sure that I'm using more video in effective spaces. How do I know if it's been effective? What are my percentages of watches? How many watches am I getting? How long are people sticking with these videos? The win with video is not just sending videos. It's getting people to watch them and see my face and interact with them and hearing what I need from them. It's starting conversations. So maybe they're clicking play on your video, but they're only watching 5%. That's not a win necessarily because they didn't get to the call to action that we needed them there. So these are some of the different KPIs and measurements that you can use to be successful. And again, all of this is accessible straight from the web browser itself. Now, maybe this is something that you're interested in and want to do. Really, really easy. If you just go in the URL bar up here, now you'll search for different things depending on which browser you're in. You can't get the Edge browser in the Chrome extension and vice versa. But if you're in Chrome, you can come up here and just search BombBomb Chrome extension, hit enter. And guess what? This first option right here takes you into the Google Chrome store, which is where you can download that app. I have removed because I've already added it on, but you can click add. It takes about 15 seconds max to download. You log in and then you're rocking and rolling. So really easy tool that you can start to work with right away is that Chrome extension. The last piece that I really want to show you here is a cool one as well, just because from a timing perspective, I think this is something that we think about a lot is we want to communicate with people when they can see things. We've been talking a lot about deliverability, and we're actually going to be talking about that in this next month's webinar coming up in a couple of weeks here. There are some massive changes going on in email deliverability, and these are things that are outside of BombBomb. So I think all of us sit here and go, well, yeah, I'm pretty responsible with who I'm sending to you, people, why I'm sending. I get pretty good response rates. I should be fine on that. I have a good reputation. Well, guess what? Everything is changing. Everything for every email user. Why? Because the Gmails, the Yahoos, the big dogs in email are changing their policies. So being able to schedule and make sure that we're sending content to people when they will open it, when they will engage with it is massively important, because what's hard is it doesn't always match up with when you're able to send. We talk about the beauty of asynchronous video all the time with BombBomb of I can record the video and I can send it whenever, and then they can watch it whenever they want to. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing with emails. Now, this is a little bit of our higher level membership. You have to be a BombBomb Plus or higher level membership to get into this. But if you're building and sending emails out of the BombBomb app, when you go to send, instead of clicking immediately, you can actually click this scheduled button and schedule it for a later date and time. This allows you to build your email, record your video when you have the time. So you can time block, you can be really responsible with that, and then have it go at a time when you think that client will watch that the most or is more likely to do it. What we don't want to do is maybe one night you were up building an email till, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night, right? Heaven forbid, I don't want you working that late, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
And then we click send to get that email out. Guess what? By 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock the next morning, when people are checking into their office and checking their emails, guess how many more emails they've gotten overnight? Guess where your email is now in the inbox? It's way down there, and they're clicking, and you're being associated with a lot of junk email and a lot of spam email that's going out. And that's what we don't want. Versus we can do it at night and then schedule it to go out at 9:15 in the morning. So they get in, they check their emails, and then boop, all of a sudden this new email arrives that we recorded and sent the night before. So scheduling emails is a really, really powerful thing that allows us to work when we can work. And then it allows the beauty of this asynchronous style where it goes out to them when we think they will be most likely able to engage with that content. The last piece I want to show you here, and I know I'm running through these fast just because I want to make sure I get them out and get you guys out within your hour, is Prompt. Prompt is a membership that we've had for several years here at BombBomb that has really, really helped a lot of our clients. Now, this is specific to mortgage and real estate, so I do want to give that caveat, and it is a higher level membership that we have here. But if you're somebody who's going, I want to integrate video more effectively, I want to be more consistent with the video that I'm sending, I want it to be going out every month, but I need help. I cannot come up with the content every month. I cannot come up with what to say with the scripts, with all of those sort of pieces to really be as effective as I want to. But I think this could become a staple of my business. That's what this prompt system is. It's where we help write the content. We give you a couple different options that you can go in and choose. Every month, I record a walkthrough video for you so you understand why this topic is important. What are some things you can say on this topic? And then you record the video. So it literally takes you 5 to 10 minutes a month to take the content we've pulled, you record the video, and then we help deliver that and then send you the follow-up of how you can follow up with some of the tracking stuff. So again, the consistency is the key with this. We want to make sure that you've got a video that you're getting face-to-face with people every single month with the right people. If that's something that's interesting to you, I'm not here to push it on anybody, but I just want you to know that we have it available. It's a system called Prompt that you can be interested in. So the best way to engage with that, if you're interested, if you have more questions about that, is we've got some awesome people on our sales team that would be happy to answer any questions for you. So if you email sales@bombbomb.com, they can talk you through, is this a good fit for you? Is this not a good fit for you? Again, we're not going to push you into something that's not right. We just want you to know that there are systems within BombBomb. Some are more manual, like the snippets and the Chrome extension and things that you can have in place to take those hurdles out. If you need more help than that, this prompt system is really all about us being able to provide some of that content and give you some of those sort of things. So hopefully something in that sparked some interest of going, oh, okay, I didn't even know that was there. Maybe this is going to help me be a little bit more successful with my goals and sticking with some things. I know we spent a little bit more time on trying to help you get the right mindset to build the right goals and shoot for the right things and aim for the right things. Hopefully understanding some of the additional pieces BombBomb has beyond just recording videos has given you a little bit of deeper elements there that can help you stick with your goals and be a little bit more successful on that. So T, are there any of these systems that you use kind of on a daily basis that have helped you be more consistent with your video usage?
Definitely the scheduled emails, being able to touch base with people. I love that you put that. What happens overnight, you really don't think about when you're setting yourself up for the next day. So scheduled emails for sure. The prompt content. I have conversations with our customers quite often about the different ways that they could tailor that content to be more specific to their context sphere. So we do touch that quite often. Evergreen videos. Evergreens are a lifesaver when you're having to repeat information over and over and over again to different groups of people. It's a way to cut down some time. So you've done a great job hitting on those time savers for sure today. Kevin, I think you're muted, buddy.
I am so muted. The good old cough mute caught me there. Sorry about that, everybody. There's a couple of questions I want to try and hit on in the Q&A. Tara, thanks for kind of keeping up and answering those as we've been going through this. One of the things Bill asked about that I'm sure is not unique to everybody is I'm constantly stumped with what content should be in videos, what's adding value rather than just rambling nonsense just to create a video. I love this question because that's a great thing to be intentional and be thinking about is we're not just sending videos to say we sent videos. We don't want to just check the box every month, right? So I think what's really important for this is, Bill, I can't tell you cover this content and it will be valuable for everybody. Unfortunately, we're all way too complex for that, right? So it really depends on your industry, your database, your clientele. But here's what I recommend for people a lot is start to see and understand and write down what questions am I getting asked on a regular basis. I think having frequently asked questions is a great thing. If you're getting asked more than once, that means a lot of people have that question. Now, the hard part is I think we hear them, we answer them, we do all that stuff, and then we sit down and we're like, okay, cool, I got to do a video. Shoot, what were those questions that people asked me, right? And we start to like derail and kind of get in our own head. Have a little notepad on your phone. This is one of the best things that I've started to implement. That's just frequently asked questions. As somebody asks something that triggers, oh, I bet more people have that, write that down. Just write it on your list. That way, you'll start building these up over time and it's much more organic and natural. And then when you sit down to record a video, you'll have options. You'll be able to come in and look at and be like, oh, I want to answer that question. That's the kind of stuff that's going to add value. I think I just saw a chat as well that popped in that said, ask people. Absolutely. What a great opportunity. If you've got social media, throw some stuff out there. Hey, what questions do you guys have about my industry? What are things that are confusing for you right now? I guarantee if you are in the home space, mortgage, insurance, real estate, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people that are going, I don't know what's going on with the market. I just watched a video yesterday that it's like, if you don't buy now, you're going to regret it in a year. And then I hear all these other people going, well, the rates are higher than they've been in 5 years, right? So a lot of us out here that are not real estate professionals are confused by that. So ask your clients what they want to hear. They will tell you. So ask the public, ask people, go look for those things. It's a great way to kind of get into that. A couple other questions here was kind of about the snippets and some of those sort of things from some anonymous people as well. Yeah, there's a lot of systems that have snippets, whether it's Gmail, Outlook has their own version of it. I forget the name of it. I think I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't. But Outlook does. I literally started looking because I don't use Outlook on a regular basis, but I started looking up Outlook snippets and it gave me a tool of like, oh yeah, you can save chunks of text and add those in and do some different things there. So yes, a lot of these different systems have elements of snippets. I'm not saying you have to use the BombBomb one by any means, right? Use what takes the hurdle out for you and takes the confusion out for you, because that's what's going to allow you to be more consistent with it. If you are a BombBomb user and you've got the Chrome extension, I saw somebody say, oh my gosh, the Chrome extension is so easy to add and so convenient to use. I bet you that's where I record 95% of my videos is in the Chrome extension. Yeah, it's all right. I see you nodding, and we've got a lot. So just you find in your systems what works best for you. I'm sure a lot of CRMs have elements of it as well. But just wanted to make sure, find those things. If I'm retyping this a lot, create a snippet for it, create a block for it so that I can reuse that later. What other questions do we have here? I know there's a share option, but how integrated is BombBomb with social media platforms? Becky, that's a great question. And I wish I could say it's 100% this. We do integrate. So if you're in our app, you'll see options to, do you want to share with Facebook? Do you want to share on Twitter or X? Do you want to share on some of those? Some of those, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, I think are the ones that probably integrate the best from my knowledge, because they can allow us to share our videos directly on them. Certain other ones like Snapchat, WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram is one of these. They want all of the content proprietary on their site. So one of the things that I am a huge proponent of is not saying you have to use BombBomb for all of your video needs. If you upload a video to Facebook or to Instagram or one of those sites, they're going to like it better because now it's theirs. They're going to share it more. It is going to get better reach because you've put it on that platform. So do not hesitate to use BombBomb and these other platforms. They don't have to be simultaneous. If it is a video that's in BombBomb, you can download that out and then upload it to those sites. But I always encourage, we want you to be as successful with video as you possibly can be. That doesn't mean that BombBomb is a one-stop shop for every video, every share, everything you want. Within BombBomb, you do have links to your videos that you can share on any site you need to. So just be aware there is a lot of that sort of stuff as well. So one more question that I'll try and touch on here. And man, if this is an interesting topic for you, please show up in a couple of weeks when we start talking about deliverability and those sort of things. Is it better to send out in batches or in total? This is something that you need to be really, really conscious of with who you're sending to. From a BombBomb perspective, we're going to look at a lot of things holistically. So if you send 5 batches to 200 people within a day, it's not going to look a whole lot different to us than if you send 1 batch to 1,000 people. What we're looking at is, how did those 1,000 people respond? So again, I'm not going to dive as deep into this because this is opening a really big conversation that we're going to be talking about in a few weeks here. But make sure that you're being very segmented on who you're sending to. I would say if you're doing batch sending, do it for a reason, because I can get more specific with these 200 people because of location, age, value, interest, whatever it may be. They are different from this group of people and this group of people. The more segmented you get, the more specific to their needs and values you get, the better results you're going to get, the more engagement you're going to get. I highly, highly, highly recommend separating for those purposes. It doesn't make any sense to just send separate sends that are exactly the same to different groups of people. But segment. And if you're really interested in that, we're going to talk about that. It's actually February 7th. So we're doing it a little bit earlier next month. So thank you all so much. I know this was a lot. I know I just rambled for a very, very long time, but thank you for sticking it out. I really hope that something resonated with you in this. Set one goal that feels really achievable for yourself this year. Be smart with it, and then start to build the systems in place. We, of course, hope that BombBomb is one of those systems that can be a part and can help you out in that. We hope that video can really help you achieve those goals. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Our email is support@bombbomb.com. That will submit a ticket to somebody just like Tara, so we can look at it and make sure that you're finding the wins in the best way that you possibly can. We will be sending out a recording for you in the next few days. Tara, thank you so much for keeping up with everything, adding some flavor, adding some things, especially with everything going on in your life. It's always such a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you.
My pleasure. So much fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us, for hanging in there. 2024, it's our year.
Let's do it. We'll work through these hurdles. We'll build some of that resiliency, and we'll keep plugging away with video. Thanks for letting us partner with you in your video journey. It is such an honor to have you as part of the family. Thank you all so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you in a few weeks, where we're talking about some of these deliverability changes and how you can be more successful with getting your emails where they're supposed to be. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.